In the halls of history, we are taught that kindness is a virtue. We are told that being good means saying yes, avoiding conflict, and making sure everyone around us is happy. But there is a hidden poison in this mindset, a poison that slowly drains your soul and erases your authority. Imagine a Roman emperor, the most powerful man on earth, constantly asking for permission to lead. Imagine Marcus Aurelius trying to please every citizen, every soldier, and every enemy. He wouldn't be a leader, he would be a slave. Today, we call it people-pleasing, but the Stoics called it something much worse, self-betrayal. If you find yourself unable to say no, if you feel exhausted by the needs of others while your own life falls apart, you aren't being kind, you are being conquered. You have traded your inner kingdom for a few drops of temporary approval. In this video, we go back to the ancient streets of Rome to reclaim your true power. We will explore why your niceness is actually your greatest weakness, and how the Stoic masters used the power of no to build empires that the world still remembers. The foundation of Stoic power. To understand the cost of kindness, we must first understand what power meant to a Stoic. Power wasn't about gold or land. It was about autarkia, self-sufficiency. The moment you prioritize someone else's opinion over your own principles, you lose your autarkia. You become a puppet, and the world holds the strings. The psychological trap. Why do we do it? History shows us that humans are social animals. In the past, being liked by the tribe meant survival. If the tribe kicked you out, you died in the wilderness. This ancient fear is still inside us. When you feel that itch to agree with someone, even when they are wrong, that is your caveman brain trying to survive. But we no longer live in caves. We live in a world where your time and focus are your only real currency. The Stoic definition of kindness versus niceness. Seneca, the great Stoic advisor, once wrote that a wise man is helpful to others, but never at the expense of his own virtue. There is a massive difference between kindness and niceness. Kindness is a choice made by a strong person. It comes from abundance. Niceness is a reflex made by a fearful person. It comes from a need for safety. If you are being nice because you are afraid of what people will think, you are not a virtuous person. You are a hostage. The cost? Your identity. Every time you say yes to a request you hate, you are saying no to your own goals, your own peace, and your own power. As we dive deeper into this 8-part journey, we will look at how Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, taught his students to guard their minds like a fortress. He famously said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." People pleasers are terrified of being thought of as mean or selfish, but the Stoics knew that being called selfish by those who want to use you is actually a badge of honor. It means you are finally standing up. In the next part, we will look at the historical evolution of the yes man and why history never remembers the people who tried to please everyone. The evolutionary trap. and the tribe. The biological blueprint. To break the chains of people-pleasing, we must first understand why those chains exist. Thousands of years ago, on the harsh plains of the ancestral wilderness, being liked was not a luxury, it was a survival strategy. If the tribe rejected you, you were cast out into the cold, left to face predators and starvation alone. Our brains are still wired with this ancient fear. When you feel a knot in your stomach because you want to say no to a friend or a boss, that is your biological survival mechanism screaming, if they don't like you, you will die. But here is the Stoic truth. We no longer live in the wilderness. The tribe that judges you today, the people on social media, the toxic co-workers, the demanding neighbors, cannot kill you. Yet we still give them the power of life and death over our emotions. Look at the history of Cato the Younger, a man so dedicated to his principles that he refused to please even the most powerful men in Rome. While others were bending their knees to Julius Caesar to save their lives and careers, Cato stood firm. Why? Because Cato understood that outer approval is a prison, but inner integrity is a fortress. He chose to be hated for being right, rather than loved for being a coward. The cost of the mask. When you please everyone, you wear a mask. You smile when you are angry. You agree when you disagree. Slowly, the mask sticks to your face. You forget who you actually are. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warned about this in his letters. He noted that the more we try to fit into the crowd, the more we lose our soul to the crowd. He said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. Notice that Seneca didn't say, associate with everyone and make sure they all like you. He was selective. He knew that your energy is a finite resource. If you spend your energy making sure everyone feels good, you have zero energy left to make yourself great. The cost of kindness becomes too high when it turns into a debt you can never pay. In the next part, we will look at the specific life of Marcus Aurelius, the man who held the entire world in his hands, and how he dealt with the constant pressure to please the masses without losing his own mind. Imagine being the emperor of Rome. Thousands of people want your favor. Hundreds of politicians want your yes. Every decision you make pleases one group and angers another. If Marcus Aurelius had been a people-pleaser, the Roman Empire would have collapsed in a week. Marcus dealt with betrayal from his closest friends and even his family. Yet in his private journal, now known as the Meditations, he never wrote about how to make people like him. Instead, he wrote about how to remain just even when people hate you. The concept of social duty versus social slavery. Marcus Aurelius believed in a concept called justice, one of the 4 Stoic virtues. For him, kindness was a duty to the human hive. But he made a clear boundary. You must serve the hive, but you must not let the hive consume your soul. He famously said, I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Think about that. You care more about what a random stranger thinks of you than what you think of yourself. That is the cost of kindness we are talking about. When you seek approval, you are handing your self-worth to someone else on a silver platter. The practice of objective judgment. When someone criticized him or tried to manipulate him through guilt, Marcus used a technique called objective representation. He stripped things down to their bare bones. If someone was angry at him for saying no, he didn't see an enemy. He saw a human being acting out of ignorance. By not taking it personally, he kept his power. He remained kind, but he remained immovable. He was like a rock in the ocean. The waves crashed against him constantly, but the rock stayed exactly where it was. The power of the clean no. Marcus teaches us that being a good person does not mean being a doormat. In history, the most respected leaders were those who had the courage to be disliked. When you start saying no to things that drain your spirit, people will call you arrogant. They will call you different. But notice what happens. The people who were using you will leave, and the people who truly respect you will stay. The psychology of the yes man. The invisible chain. Why is it so hard to say no? Why does the word yes come out of our mouths even when our stomach is turning in knots? To the Stoics, this wasn't just a social habit. It was a form of voluntary slavery. We live in a world that rewards the yes man. We are taught from childhood that being agreeable is the path to success. But psychology tells a different story. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, you are practicing self-rejection. You are telling your subconscious mind that everyone else's time, goals, and feelings are more important than your own. The fear of social friction. The yes man is driven by a deep-seated fear of friction. We fear the awkward silence that follows a no. We fear the judgment in someone's eyes. But Stoicism teaches us that friction is where character is built. Epictetus often taught his students that you cannot be free if you are afraid of someone's opinion. He said, if you want to be a person of character, you must be willing to let others think you are heartless or even foolish. History doesn't remember the man who attended every meeting, did every favor, and pleased every critic. History remembers the man who had a vision and had the balls to protect it. The mirror test. Look at the most successful figures in history, from Roman generals to modern innovators. They all shared one trait: essentialism. They knew that for every great yes, there must be 1,000 no's. When you become a yes man, you lose your edge. You become diluted. Like a river that branches off into too many small streams, you eventually lose your force and dry up. To reclaim your power, you must stop being a helper to everyone and start being a leader of your own life. Your time is your life. The great illusion. The greatest mistake we make is believing that our time is free. If someone asked you for your money, you would hesitate, you would calculate, you would protect your bank account. But when someone asks for your time, you give it away instantly in the name of being nice. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote a masterpiece called On the Shortness of Life. In it, he observes a strange human behavior. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. The high price of yes. When you say yes to a request you don't want to fulfill, you aren't just saying a word. You are making a trade. You are trading hours of your life, hours you could have spent on your purpose, your family, or your own mental peace for a few seconds of someone else's approval. Is that person's temporary opinion worth the hours of your existence? Every time you please others at your own expense, you are dying a little bit sooner. Guard your fortress. To a Stoic, your mind and your time are a fortress. People pleasers leave the gates of their fortress wide open. They allow anyone to walk in, dump their emotional garbage, and steal their energy. When you lose control of your time, you lose control of your life. You become a donor to everyone else's goals while your own dreams starve. True power is not about how many people you help. It is about having the sovereignty to choose who is actually worthy of your help. If you do not respect your own time, the world will never respect you. They will simply use you until you are empty. The courage to stand alone. The addiction to approval. The deepest reason we become people pleasers is a primitive fear, the fear of being alone. We agree with the crowd because we are terrified of the silence that comes when the crowd leaves. But the Stoics taught that your true power is only found in that silence. If your happiness depends on the smiles of other people, you are a beggar. You are constantly holding out your hand, hoping someone will drop a compliment or a thank you into it. This is what Seneca called social slavery. The Stoic fortress of solitude. The great Stoic masters didn't seek to be lonely. They sought to be self-sufficient. They understood that if you cannot be happy alone, you will never be free in a group. You will always be performing. You will always be editing your words to make sure no one gets offended. When you stop people-pleasing, you will use friends. This is the cost of kindness that no one tells you about. But look closely at the friends you lose. You aren't losing partners, you are losing users. You are clearing the weeds out of your garden so that real relationships based on respect, not utility, can grow. The strength of being disliked. There is a profound strength in being disliked for the right reasons. As Epictetus famously said, "If you hear that someone has spoken ill of you, do not defend yourself. Simply reply, 'He must not know my other faults, or he would have mentioned those as well.'" This level of indifference is the ultimate shield. When you no longer care if you are liked, you become dangerous to those who want to control you. You become a leader because you are no longer a follower. You aren't being mean, you are simply becoming unshakable. The art of the Stoic no, the training ground. Stoicism is not a theory, it is an exercise. To stop being a people pleaser, you must treat your social interactions like a gym. You don't start by lifting 100 kilograms, you start with 5. The first Stoic exercise is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before you go into a meeting or a social gathering, Visualize someone asking you for a favor that you don't want to do. See yourself saying no, clearly and calmly. Visualize them getting angry or disappointed. Now, look at yourself in that vision. Are you still alive? Is the sky still there? Yes. Their disappointment cannot hurt you unless you allow it to. The clean no. A people pleaser often gives a dirty no. They apologize, they make up excuses, and they lie to soften the blow. This shows weakness. The Stoic gives a clean no. I cannot do that right now. That does not align with my priorities. No excuses, no long explanations. As Epictetus taught, you are the master of your own faculty of choice. When you explain too much, you are submissively asking for their permission to say no. Stop asking, just state your boundary.
The 24-hour rule. Marcus Aurelius often spoke about the importance of pause. When someone puts pressure on you to agree, do not answer immediately. Tell them, I will check my schedule and get back to you. This small gap destroys the people-pleasing reflex. It gives you the space to ask yourself, am I saying yes because I want to help or because I am afraid of the conflict? If it is fear, the answer must be no. The reward of character. At first, people will be shocked. They might call you cold, but slowly, something miraculous happens. The people who were using you will disappear, and the people who remain will start to respect your time. You are no longer a nice guy who can be manipulated. You are a man of virtue who cannot be bought.
The final power, true sovereignty, the transformation. We started this journey by looking at the cost of kindness. We have seen how people-pleasing is not a virtue, but a form of self-betrayal. It is the slow erasure of your true power. But now you have the tools to rebuild your fortress. The transition from a people-pleaser to a Stoic leader is not easy. It requires you to face the one thing most people avoid at all costs: conflict. But remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote in this journal. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The definition of true sovereignty. True power is not about controlling others. It is about having absolute control over yourself. When you stop seeking approval, you stop being a slave. You become sovereign. You will find that your kindness becomes more meaningful because now, when you say yes to someone, they know it comes from a place of strength, not a place of fear. Your yes has value because you have the courage to say no. As you close this video, I challenge you to find one area in your life today where you are saying yes only to avoid conflict. Whether it is a toxic friend, a demanding boss, or a social obligation that drains your soul, take your power back. Be content to be thought of as selfish by those who want to use you. Be content to be disliked by those who do not respect your boundaries. In the end, the only opinion that matters is the one you see in the mirror. History does not remember the nice guys who faded into the background. It remembers those who stood their ground, protected their time, and lived with virtue. The cost of kindness should never be your soul. Reclaim your power, guard your mind, and live like a Stoic.